Hello and welcome to fasboyRambles by Fastboy Creative. As you can guess, I'm Fastboy, and today I'm going to ramble on whether or not you're a thinker or a doer. So we've talked about several things, and the key to this series is discussion about success and what it means for you and how to reach the accomplishments that you're trying to reach. And that got me to thinking about, am I a thinker or am I a doer? And what's the difference? And is it good to be one versus the other, or does it need to be some combination of both? And I'm sure that most of you probably know people that fit each category, maybe have considered who you are in that mix and who other people are. And so the challenge I have for you today is to think about this. Think about a scale from thinker to doer. And if it's a timeline that runs across this way, all the way to one side would be I'm a thinker. I really think about things a lot before I do them, or I'm a doer and I just get busy and start doing things without really thinking about them. So as you can imagine, that it's difficult to be an entrepreneur or to be in business, and depending on the kind of success that you're trying to achieve, to really be at one of the full extremes of one way or the other. So my opinion, I think that somewhere in the middle, or some mixture of people you're working together with, accumulate to maybe a value that's in the middle between thinker and doer. So we're going to talk today about being a thinker, being a doer, the combination of those two things, how it impacts business growth, success, things like that, and that'll be it for this episode. Now, on the thinker side of things, the people who are deep thinkers, tend to end up with, if you're all the way to that extreme, you're the thinker versus being the doer, it's like you really have to be comfortable with it. You really have to think through what the results are going to be of your action, whatever it might be. And will you ever even be able to get to an action, or will you always be thinking about it to the extent that you're not able to ever get an action? Okay, so I know some people like that they are just so apprehensive to whether it's buy a new car or start a business or whatever it might be, that there's just too many things to think about, and they just have to, well, what if I buy it and I overpay for it, and then I don't like it, and then I'm not able to sell it, and what will I do about that? And so that gets to a point where you're just thinking and rethinking to the extent that you can't ever get anything to happen. Well, if we discuss the second item, which was what it's like to be a doer, well, it takes doers to get things done. And an example of that is, you decide you're going to build a tree fort in the backyard. I had this experience as a kid, wanted to build a tree fort in the backyard, and I just wanted to, go in the garage, see what kind of tools and things we had, and just get them out and just start building my tree fort. And so I consulted my dad about it, and of course he came back and he wanted to, make a drawing and then make a list of the materials required, and all those things I can appreciate today. But as a youngster, I couldn't appreciate that at all. I thought, well, that's boring. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to get busy and get it done. Well, the result was he abandoned the effort because I wasn't playing his game, and I went out to the garage and got out tools and boards and nails and whatever we had and got started building the treehouse. Well, as you can imagine, that didn't really go all that well because the treehouse got started. I don't know if a single board even got put up, and then I abandoned that. So that's an example of how the two extremes really didn't get the job done. But had we met somewhere in the middle and said, well, let's go out to the garage, let's see what we have for materials, let's see if we can put together some kind of a plan to get started, and let's get started with what we have, and then order what we need, things like that. Well, we would have gotten more things done. Well, on the extreme of the doer side, I always, people might have comments about this, I don't know, but I always think of I mentioned that the thinker side was kind of analysis paralysis, and you can't get anything going, and people who are thinkers might be offended by that statement. And well, on the doer side, I always think that if you're extreme over there, bull in a china closet is the thing that comes to mind for me. So you just got to get busy, you got to get started, got to do these things that will just make it work. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. But in my opinion, if you're going to have good success, especially long term, is you need to understand that about yourself. Am I a thinker? Am I a doer? Am I somewhere in between? Let's just say that I'm at one of the extremes. My suggestion is try to develop your strategy or your plan or whatever it is you're trying to do, is break it down into small pieces so that you can analyze for a bit, do for a bit, analyze for a bit, do for a bit, and so on and so forth until the project gets completed. and that's a good way to sort of fill that gap. And if you're extreme thinker, then understand that about yourself and say, well, okay, I need to force myself to actually do some of these things. So if I break it into a chunk that isn't so threatening to me, that I can get that done without having concern about it or feeling bad about it, that might help. And well, if I'm extreme to the doer side of things, same thing. If I break that down into a smaller task, well, now maybe I can plan for it a little bit and then execute it in that way, and you'll be able to still get the job done. Now, I think the third item on the list was, be both a thinker and a doer, right? And so that's what I'm kind of, the segue I'm leading into here was find that middle ground, find that happy medium where you can do both. And if you personally can't do that, well, then bring people onto your team to help you out that offset you. So, I have 4 children, and I probably have, some that are on the thinker side and some that are on the doer side. And, when they work together, at first it was a challenge for them, but once they learned how to do that, it really made sense, because you had one planning things out and the other one executing the steps. And it tended to work out pretty good in the long run. So I think if you're going to be, an entrepreneur or get into a business, or, finding ways to build wealth, you need to find that happy medium in there, that will work for you. Then in closing, I guess, if I can kind of wrap this up, I like to think if you're going to start a business and you're going to be an entrepreneur, that the requirement to find that balance is probably going to be one of the most important things for you, so that you don't never get started and don't jump in and waste a bunch of money and not have success in that way. And if you can't, just find the happy medium on your own, then bring people in. Maybe it's a significant other or a closely trusted friend, or some kind of an investor or somebody like that wants to share success with you. But having said that, that's all I've got to ramble today on the topic of, are you a thinker or a doer? I just felt that early in the series that was an important thing to get understood, so that you can overcome it, move on, and find what works for you. That's all I've got to say for today. Fast Boy signing off.